Hello again, my name is Manuel Marcano, and I still make games. Feel free to comment and share. I'm not laying out the law and expect people to disagree. It would be great to hear about why or how, so please comment. Last week, I spoke a little about the basics of world building and used a few examples of how Final Fantasy VI and 13 effectively or ineffectively created context for their worlds. This week, I want to focus on characterization and diversity. Diversity is something that a lot of people are alarmed by. There are whole groups set against it, and you get some really nasty comments on any article about the subject. Diversity can mean a lot of things, and all of them are good for gaming, especially world building. Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor is a recently released action game with RPG elements based on the world of The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. In it, there is a very big emphasis placed on the orcs who live within Mordor. The orcs, even within the world of Tolkien, exist as a tribal culture that are just evil others. They show almost no motivation, are easily scattered when defeating a leader, have no female or reproductive origin, and never talk about anything other than slaves or eating other races. They even get singled out as being cannibals. This makes it very difficult to actually engage with them, and sows seeds of misunderstanding, as it reflects poorly on the tribal cultures of the real world, and perpetuates European biases as well as forced colonial thinking. Imagine how much cooler the orcs would be if one of the orcs caught up in the Nemesis system talked about how a group of elves came in and massacred his whole family, and that is why he fights against them. In my short time playing Shadow of Mordor, the point of the Nemesis system seemed to be focused on a way to create a story within the game using the loose meritocracy of the orcs' culture, and within that to add an interactive piece of storytelling. But when not enough emphasis is placed on the why, the culture doesn't seem properly fleshed out, and it leads to a disconnect that only makes it a gameplay feature when it could have been something bigger. Taking culture into account when creating worlds can make the world itself far more believable and immersive, especially within a fantasy setting. When you look at the things people remember or talk about most within Tolkien's writings, it is always the most developed cultures that have quirks, physical evolutions to their surroundings, and even their own languages. Many of the most memorable worlds in games very heavily feature cultures that are distinct in their differences. Skies of Arcadia, for example, has the player interact with the vastly different cultures in Ixataka, Yafutoma, and Valhalla. Fire Emblem has always been a series that did well in creating various cultures and incorporating real-world structure, which really manifests itself in both the design and social structure of countries like Bern, Lycia, and Sakaea. In the world of Tactics Ogre and Ogre Battle, a major theme in every game is clashing cultures. Each of the world's cultures is explored in depth because they are the focus. Similarly, the political intrigue within the world of Ivalice in Final Fantasy is one part of the constructs of society that drive the plot. When you look at some of the most beloved stories in games, it's clear to see how looking at other cultures and using them as a base is good for world building. What about individuals? Many RPGs feature a party or group of characters. The more diverse and nuanced the characters are, the more people can connect with them. Lots of different people play games for different reasons. If you want people to identify with your game, doesn't it stand to reason creating a diverse cast will have someone most players can relate to? If you create an all-male party that exists as servants to the single playable character, you won't get as many points of view and you won't get as deep of an understanding of the game world. For example, how male and females are placed in gender roles, if gender roles exist, or what common everyday life is like for people who don't need servants. Even from a gameplay perspective, limiting the player to one character with a specific style really limits how much can be said about the world or cast. Final Fantasy as a series is a great example. Although turn and menu based, each character feels unique, not only because they have base stats that affect their specialties, but also because many of the games, in my opinion the best ones, feature character specific commands, many of which have attached gameplay structures. In Final Fantasy VI, Edgar uses tools created in the technologically advanced kingdom of Figaro while in battle. Sabin, a man who trains in the mountains, is able to input commands similar to a fighting game using his Blitz command, while Celis, a woman from an empire based on magic, can absorb magic using her runic skill. Final Fantasy IV gives players unique commands in a similar way. For example, Rose's Aim, Rydia's Summon, and Palamemporum's Twin commands. In the Tales and Star Ocean series, playing a magic user is fundamentally different from playing a melee character, which itself can be divided into faster and slower characters that have different inputs and skills. Throw ranged characters into the mix and you have a way to differentiate personalities within gameplay. When applied, you get characters like Claude Kenny from Star Ocean 2, who puts others' needs ahead of his own, and functions extremely well as a frontline combatant. This all seems way too mechanical to have to do with narrative, right? Well, that's not completely true. One of the strengths of games as an interactive media is, well, interactivity. By using the systems in your game to tell a story or give exposition that enhances characterization, you can build a better narrative. So be sure to join us again next time for a rundown of some of the ways RPGs effectively use mechanics to enhance the narrative. I hope you enjoyed. Please, if you have anything to say that will keep the discussion rolling, be sure to comment. Thanks for listening.